Hey, you guys. So, I get this question a lot, and I figured I might as well make a video about it. That way, when people ask, I can just send them to the video. Okay? So, the question is, how did I become MAGA? Let me explain. It began when I was born. Because I am black, if you look at the bottom of any black person's birth certificate in really fine Willy Wonka print, you need a Willy Wonka magnifying glass to see it. So, but in really fine Willy Wonka print, it says, "You are black, therefore you belong to the Democrats." So for 50 years, I belonged to the Democrats. I believed everything they said because, well, they're the Democrats and I'm black, so I have to. And if you don't, people will come for you. It's sort of like the Democrat plantation. If you leave it, then they will send slave catchers for your behind. You will notice this because you can go to any black conservatives page, and in their comment section, there is nothing but racially charged comments. You're a coon. You're an Uncle Tom. You're Uncle Ruckus. It goes on and on, honey. They will come for you if you leave the Democrats. So I was a Democrat, diehard Democrat. I was also, right before I left the Democrats, very, very big on prison reform. I had a son that was in prison, and that 94 crime bill situation was tearing up my community, in my opinion, at the time. And so I had performed in prisons. I had been in plays in prisons. I had written plays about prison and prison reform and how hard it was on the black man and the black family and all of that. So I was very much a pro-black activist. Afro puffs. I ain't never had a weave, y'all. I ain't never had a weave because I always been so pro-black. So when black people voted for Biden, you want to talk about somebody so disappointed. I was distraught. I could not believe that people were voting for Biden. Not only was he the author of crime bills that had affected my community, he was also, to me, openly racist. Biden has said some of the worst things in racial history. He has hung out with Ku Klux Klan people and everything else. I just, for the life of me, could not believe that black people had voted for Biden. Was that the first thing that made me leave the Democrats? No, but I think it was at the top of the list of the things that made me say, I am done with these Dems. I think the beginning of getting red pilled was one day I was getting dressed, getting ready to go to a dentist appointment, and I had CNN on the TV, as usual, watching CNN because that's what we do. Democrats. Watching CNN, and this was when Trump was first running, the very first time. And they were something Trump had said at some event. CNN was going on and on about how mean and hateful and a horrible person he was, and he a racist, and he's this and he's that. And I was like, that's right. That Trump, I don't like him. But then I go to my dentist appointment and they have Fox News on the TV. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw this whole thing. I thought Trump said this, and Fox News is saying Trump said something else. And Fox News is like so happy about the event, and oh, it's just the best thing ever. Whereas CNN was like, oh, we're gonna die, it's over. Ah. So I was like, the news is fake. That was the first time it dawned on me that maybe Trump is right and the news is fake. And from that point on, I vowed that I would not listen to CNN or Fox when it came to getting my news about what was going on in the United States, period, and especially about President Trump. So I started watching news outside the US, BBC, Al Jazeera, a bunch of other news outlets that were outside the United States. And they were telling me about what was going on inside the United States. But they were telling me from a point that they didn't have a dog in the fight. They weren't Republicans, they weren't Democrats in the United States. Some people might argue against that and say the BBC is left leaning or whatever. But I started listening to other outlets. Not only that, I started watching the events for myself. If Trump had a rally, I went and watched the whole rally for myself. I didn't let anybody tell me what was said. But even with that, with knowing that the news was fake, I still didn't vote for Trump that first time. I just, as a matter of fact, I was so Trump deranged. I had TDS so bad that let me tell you a story of how I know I had TDS really bad. I had been in a play with a lady. It was just the two of us in that play. And so it was a 2-woman show. We killed it. Like we rocked that stage, y'all. And she and I became like this because if it's just you and somebody else in a play, you're going to become like this. And I got nominated for Best Female Lead in that play. And it was a big gala event in my city, and I could not afford to go. I didn't have the money for the ticket or a dress or anything. My co-star bought my ticket, made sure I got back and forth to the event. Like she went above and beyond and went with me and was so proud of me. Like we were in the play together, and you would think that if only one person got nominated, that the other person might feel some type of way about it. She never showed me if she did. She was so happy for me and so proud of me, and she went out of her way to make sure that I went to this event. It was beautiful. A couple months later, I found out she voted for Trump. How's she gonna vote for Trump? I called her and I cussed her out. I told her she was a racist and how dare you vote for Trump and you blah, 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 and I can't believe blah, 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 and you didn't and be this and hold that and went smooth off on this lady that had been so good to me just a few months before that. I had never seen anything about her that made me think she was a racist or anything else. But the fact that she voted for Trump, I went smooth off on her. Blocked her. I'm not talking to her. Erased her out my phone. Everything. Because she voted for Trump. I had serious Trump derangement syndrome. But slowly but surely, other things started to happen. So, like I said, that was the first time Trump ran. And, I kept my TDS all the way to the end, even though I knew the news was fake. Even though I had heard him speak at rallies and I could go watch CNN twist his words, I still did not vote for him the first time. The second time rolls around and he is up against Biden. And y'all know how I feel about Biden. I cannot stand that man. But even then, I did not vote for Trump. It was the first time in my life that I did not vote at all. Because I certainly was not going to vote for Joe Biden. So I called myself an independent at that point. At that point, I was for sure leaving the Democrat Party. You voted for Joe Biden? Black people, you voted for, I was just mind blown. You voted for Joe Biden? I was done. I left the Democrat Party at that point, considered myself an independent, and still did not vote for Trump. But oh, honey, I think a lot of us needed that. We needed Trump to have that space in between his presidencies. We needed a 46 kind of moment because Joe Biden was the worst thing that happened to this country. And sitting back watching Joe Biden and his administration destroy this country made me long for President Trump. because I could look back and I could see how good the country was doing under Trump before they threw in the C word. Y'all know what I'm talking about, trying to destroy the man. I truly believe that that whole pandemic thing was because Trump was doing so good that they wanted to throw something in the mix to mess things up. I did not get the jab. Okay, I was completely against that whole thing. The rhetoric behind it, the lies that were being told about it, I was completely against it. And because I was against it, people turned on me. You not gonna get the jab, you gonna off my grandmama, and all the crazy things that people were saying. And that opened my eyes as well, because I was like, if people can turn on me because I don't agree with what's going on with this C thing, maybe people have turned on people who voted for Trump in the same way. Because I'm not a horrible person just because I don't agree with this whole plan that y'all got for the jabby jab. But you're making me out to be a bad person because of it. Maybe, just maybe, all MAGA people aren't bad. And it was at that point that I called the lady back. Now, I still hadn't voted for Trump. I still was not on the Trump train, but I completely understood how people were blowing things out of proportion simply because you don't agree with them about something. And so I called the lady who I was in the play with back, and I apologized. And she accepted me with open arms. She said, I know, Nakia, it broke my heart that you said those things about me, but I knew that you would eventually come around, and I forgive you. That was another thing that made me say, something is not right in the atmosphere. That we are turning on people simply because they have different views than us. Not just turning on them, but completely demonizing people. You're a racist. You're an N word with the I at the end and an AZ in the middle. You're horrible. You're the worst. Simply because people didn't agree. So that was a couple of things that started making me leave the Democrats, head towards MAGA. But the thing that I believe the most pushed me towards MAGA was the fact that I started asking questions. I wasn't just going along to get along anymore like Black people are supposed to on the Democrat plantation. No, I was asking questions, especially when it came to Joe Biden. Why are we voting for this guy? Kamala ain't one of us. Her daddy, Jamaican, Asian. She ain't one of us. So I started asking all these questions, and people turned on me and started pushing me. Every time I asked a question and they called me names and they dogged me out and they pointed fingers at me and said the worst, they were pushing me because I wasn't claiming the right yet. I wasn't saying I was MAGA. I was saying I'm an independent and I don't understand why the Democrats are doing this. I don't understand why Black people are voting for that. I don't understand why Margaret Sanger is not something we're talking about in the Black community, where Kamala has these clinics, rolling clinics outside her events to take away Black babies. Like, I didn't understand why we were okay with that. I didn't understand why we were okay with little Black boys being effeminized and forced into dresses and girls' sports and locker rooms and all of that. Do what you want to do with your life. If you want a purse and some lipstick, do that. But what you're not going to do is be mad at me because I still see you with your beard and therefore I called you sir. You're not going to be mad at me because I'm a woman who likes to be in the locker room with other women, not watching somebody walk around slanging. just a slanging. I don't want that in my life. Do what you want to do with your life, but do not come into my life and impose your loss of reality into my reality. I I wasn't here for that. And so I started asking questions about it, and people were steadily pushing me. Steadily pushing me. And I was fighting it all the way, like, no, I'm not a Trump supporter. And they would say, you are a Trump supporter. If you're asking about that, then you're a Trumpster. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, why would we vote for Biden? He's this, he's that. Oh, you're a Trumper. I'm not a Trumper. And then they pushed me all the way off. Pushed me all the way off the cliff. And I was free falling. And I reached up and grabbed onto a red pill, popped it in my mouth, and I was done from that point on. I will never vote Democrat again. I don't give a flip what happens. For one, they were so mean and so hateful to me and called me all kinds of names. I will never trust them again for anything. And now that my eyes are open and I see all that the Democrat Party has done to get black votes, but have never done anything to actually live up to what they promised us to get those votes, I will never trust them again. Now that I see the light of identity politics, especially with this Winsome Sears thing, like, oh, what happened to support all black women? Vote for black women. We need more black women in office. But now, mum's the word. Oh, it's too many things that have opened my eyes, honey. It is red pill after red pill after red pill. And now I am finally cured from my Trump derangement syndrome. And once you are cured, you see better. You hear better. You feel that the Democrats ain't right. You feel that they have an agenda that does not put Americans first. That's why when people said America first, the Democrats started itching like, oh, we hate that. We're allergic to that, because they do not want to put Americans first. Their focus is on putting Americans last, because those are the only people who vote for them. People who are struggling, people who can't get ahead in life because the Democrats told them they couldn't and made sure it was a thing. We're going to give you food stamps so we can keep you dangling. You're never going to get ahead in life. You're always going to need us. So vote for us. Now that I see the hypocrisy of the Democrats, I will never go back to them. What made me MAGA, though, what made me MAGA and proud was because I had been told for so long that MAGA people were racist, white supremacists, mean and hateful, all of that. And when the Democrats pushed me off the cliff, MAGA people caught me. MAGA people were so nice to me. And I had never really noticed them before because they weren't in my comment section being mean and hateful when I was a Democrat. When I was a lefty, they never said anything to me. But as soon as I left the left came running. They came with claws and whips and chains and said horrible and mean things to me in my comment section and still do. But MAGA had never done that before. I didn't start hearing from MAGA until I started hearing good things. Like, good job for you for thinking for yourself. Good job for you. You're a smart lady. You're a bright lady. Good job for you. This was even before I was on their side. They were saying, good job. They were saying, we like the way you think. We're happy for you that you got free from the Democrats. And that made me see that the media, the fake news, had been lying about MAGA all this time as well. And let me tell you about the white supremacy. It's only white people in MAGA. That's a lie. When I first got over into MAGA, I was like tiptoeing in, like, is it okay if black people be in here? And black people was like, yep, girl, it is. Come on in. There's black, Asian, white, Hispanic, rainbow color, everybody in MAGA. It is a huge family of Americans. And once I got in MAGA, you know what else went away? My victim mentality. I stopped seeing myself as, oh, poor little woe is me for being black in the United States of America. And I started seeing myself as another shade of wheat in the amber waves of grain. All right, you guys. So yes, that is how I became MAGA. I was pushed out of the Democrat side into MAGA, and MAGA embraced me with open arms. And I love it over here, which means I'm here to stay. I love you guys. Bye-bye.